The Real Show is brought to you by UCS Facility Management Limited, Omni Basic Bank, and Dewdrop Hand Sanitizer.
Welcome to tonight's episode of The Real Show. My name is Mahalia Bamford, and tonight we are live on Metro TV Ghana. Tonight on this particular episode, which I would call the special edition, we are not going to have the usual 2 guests. We will have 3 guests, yes. And let me give you a hint of what we are going to be discussing tonight. It's going to be something about art, something about playing with words, just adding rhythm and making your feelings and ideas express themselves more, intensely. And it's all about poetry. Yes, I literally just gave it all out to you. So stick with me because we're about to have a lot of fun on tonight's episode. We'll be back after the break. Welcome back to The Real Show, and if you just joined us, we're about to have a night of great discussion. Yes, I was mentioning something about, making distinctive beats and rhythms, or just using some sort of a style to express your feelings and emotions, and that hints at poetry, isn't it? Well, I am not a pro here. Let's have a look at this introductory video, and we will have our 3 guests enlighten us. Stick with me.
Spoken word refers to an oral poetic performance art that is based mainly on the poem as well as the performer's aesthetic qualities. Poetry is primarily oral utterances to be said aloud and to be heard. Poetry, like music, appeals to the ear, an effect known as euphony, and a device to represent a thing or action by word that imitates sound. Spoken word has existed for many years. Through cycles of practicing, listening, and memorizing, each language drew on its resources of sound structure for oral partings that made spoken poetry very different from ordinary discourse and easier to commit to memory. Poetry, and for that matter, spoken word, has seen some prominence since pathfinders such as Atukwe Okai. The poetry group Ehalakasa, led by Kojo Yibo Kojo, holds monthly talk party events and special events such as the Ehalakasa Slam Festival and end-of-year events. This group has produced spoken word performers including Mutombo the Poet, Chief Mumin, and Nana Sase. The spoken word movement in Ghana is rapidly growing, that individual spoken word artists like Samiha Suleiman, Afi, and Michelle Troclair are continuously carving a niche for themselves and stretching the borders of spoken word. Samiha Suleiman is a wife, a mother, a businesswoman. She is the CEO of Pearls of Paradise Jewelries and Miha Publications. She holds a master's degree in educational leadership and management and a bachelor's in economics and Arabic language, both from the University of Ghana. She is passionate about child development and as such devotes her time and energy to creating educational materials and programs that aim at promoting high moral standards and ethics in children. Betha Enam Afigali is 23 years old. She started reciting at age 11 when discovered by Mr. Dominic Ando, who is the regional coordinator for arts and culture in Greater Accra. She later started writing her own poems at age 18. She has performed on big stages and has performed for the current First Lady of Ghana. And Michelle is a poet, spoken word artist, actor, and writer who has recently relocated to Ghana from the United States. She has been writing and performing original poetry for 25 years, hosted and coordinated open mics and showcases to exhibit the importance of the art forms, and mentored youth in the pursuit of the craft of writing and performing. She has been published in anthologies and magazines and has performed in over 80 shows. She holds a bachelor's degree in English, a master's degree in public administration, and a master's degree in fine arts. Her proudest achievement is that of mother to 4 children. Let's welcome this beautiful spoken word artist to the real show.
A big welcome to all of you once again. So we have Samira here, we have Afi, and we have Michelle, yes. So Michelle, Afi, and Samira, welcome to the real show. Samira. Samiha. Oh, I keep saying Samira. I'm tempted, huh? So yes, like I said, we have Samiha, we have Afi, and we have Michelle here in the studios with us. Tell us how it all began, spoken word. Let's start with Michelle.
Oh, goodness. For me, it started when I was very young. I had my first poem published when I was 6 years old. So
Wow.
I've been writing poetry all my life. I started doing performance-based poetry or spoken word maybe about 15 years ago.
Okay.
Prior to that, primarily just writing poetry. So I've been doing this a very long time.
Wow. Afi, tell us about how you started.
Okay, so mine started, I think, when I was graduating. I was in KG2 by then. And my first poem was Fly, Fly, Butterfly. It was written for me by my teacher. And at age 11, I was just helping my teacher write something. And I think I have a good handwriting, so he told me, oh, write this for me, write this for me. So he was writing an obituary, and it was in Chi. So he was holding the paper, and then I was reading it from behind him. And he was like, hey, we are Japan, yeah, and I was like, oh, I'm a Voltarian, but I was bred here in Accra. Then he was like, okay. Then a teacher of mine was like, oh, she's good. We can link her up to Mr. Dominic Andor, and then he would help her with all. So that was when I started. I think my first, after the first one was with Unilever Ghana. It was all about Blue Band. So that was when I started.
Great. Samiha.
My journey, I started, I think the person who introduced me into poetry is my sister. She's an artist, yeah. As beautiful as you are, she can draw you exactly.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. She used to write a lot of poems from Shakespeare and other ones. I was very little in primary school, so when I see her writings, I just pick it and I'll start memorizing them. So it used to be something that I do for fun. I memorize with my friends. I remember my primary school friends, we recite poems. I saw you toss the kite and height and blow the birds about the sky, and all around I heard you pass. You know, these are poems that my sister used to write. So when I got to JHS, after JHS, I decided to explore the poetry industry. But what I used to do, I used to recite at weddings. A lot of people used to invite me to come and recite, so I used to write love poems. Then I'll go and recite at the wedding receptions. So when I got to the University of Ghana, GIMSA students, they used to invite me at every program. I was there to recite a poem. And then because I was also doing Arabic, I also started memorizing Arabic poems. So when there is a competition among departments, then I represent the Arabic department and I recite poems in Arabic.
Nice. Beautiful. You all have very unique stories. And often we hear people say poetry and spoken word interchangeably. Would you say they are all the same, or there's a difference?
If
And
y'all
what
don't mind,
exactly
I'll-
is poetry?
Poetry is just expressing oneself through language and touching people's spirits and moving people emotionally on an emotional level. And so in that way they are the same. The difference is that spoken word is part of the oral tradition, and so it has an element of theater and drama, and is supposed to grab the audience right away, and there's no going back. You have to keep
Keep them with you.
yes, you have to keep the audience. And so I would say that the difference would be that one is much more theatrical, much more dramatic, and has less time to use a lot of imagery and vivid language. So
Yeah.
Anything to add?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think comparing poetry to spoken word is like comparing acts to scripture. Like, you know, with poetry, especially let's go to the Arabic. Poetry can be measured, but spoken words, you just express your emotions. You can, you don't need to measure it with any, you know, criteria. You just can just come out,
So
express
there's no
your words.
specific standard to which you have to
There's-
go with if
yeah.
you're doing spoken word.
With
Not
spoken
at all.
words, you
You're
can
basically
just
expressing
let it
yourself.
Yeah.
Unless
flow.
it's rap,
Okay.
Yeah.
which is also spoken word,
Yeah.
but
Oh, well,
then
yeah.
you have to keep it
And
in those 8-count bars.
Yeah.
And
If you see poetry, they can analyze it. Sometimes people interpret it with different meanings, but with spoken words, it just
As
flow
it
like
is,
that.
yes.
it's just straightforward. Spoken word is just straightforward. You have your theme, you're just saying it as it is. But
It's raw.
with poetry, you have to think, is it about this? Is it about that? So everybody will have his or her own meaning to what is being said about.
Oh, yeah.
A
Then I think with the
particular poem.
poetry, I mean, you may not necessarily deliver it to an audience.
Yeah.
So you need to go by certain standards. So anybody who reads can sort of understand what's going on there. But with spoken word, you're probably right in front of it because it's spoken. You're in front of the audience and delivering.
Yes.
So it's easier to direct your emotions and your words directly at them.
Yes.
All right then. But what inspires you to put together a piece? Say, for instance, you mentioned going for weddings and other events. Let's say there's something you have to say about a revolution or a festival or something that you're supposed to deliver at a particular event. How did you get inspired to put something together?
I don't know. I write from my spirit, from my soul, so whatever is moving me in the moment is what gets written. So it could be political, it could be in terms of relationships, it could be any number of things, but it would be a specific circumstance or set of circumstances. I can't just get invited to a festival and they say produce something. My brain doesn't work like that.
Doesn't work like
So it would have to be something that moved me spiritually, emotionally, for it to get
So
written.
that's a source of inspiration for your pieces and how you're feeling, what is moving your spirit, what's in your heart, what's on your mind, what's moving us, you know, all around
Yes.
us. That's where you pick inspiration from.
Right.
Yes.
All right.
For me, everything inspires me. The good, the bad, the ugly, all that. My mood also contributes to that because I can be like this 1 minute, the next moment I'm just like this, and then when I am like this, that is when they come.
Yeah.
I like it. So I can't be overexcited or I can't get called like, oh, I want you to perform about love when I'm thinking about war somewhere. It's not going to happen. I have to settle in, try to be calm. Then I have all of them. They're coming.
Yeah, for me, sometimes I have a theme, like an idea I want to put down, but sometimes I try many efforts, it doesn't work. Then suddenly, I just pick a pen, then it starts flowing. Like the idea that I had in mind, and I've been trying to put it down in paper, it just starts coming. So I don't know whether I call it revelation or
One line.
yeah.
If you get one
Yes.
good line,
Just one line.
yeah,
will
the
flow.
rest will just
It
flow.
could even be a word.
Yeah.
It's just a word. And then you're
Sometimes
flowing.
too, even the rhyming, sometimes I'm also able to create, like for an occasion. For that aspect, I'm able to do, but I'll have to get
Some time
some
to
time
work on it.
to think and then brainstorm.
Well, so let's think about your first performance as a poet. You know how, well, maybe as a poet you don't always perform your poetry. Maybe it's in a book, you publish them and people read. But have you ever performed your poetry? And if you have, for your first time, how was the experience? Because people just imagine that if you're into poetry, then you were born with it to want to talk about, you know, to want to like talk to a group of people or just say your work out loud to people. People think it's just that comfortable. Can you tell us about your first experience? The talent may be there, but how about performing it to people, letting other people consume what you have face to face? If you've had that experience, can you share with us?
The first time I performed a poem, it was in 1998, I believe.
Wow.
And
That's a long time ago.
the content of the poem was very risque. I can't even tell you the title on television. And so a girlfriend of mine was hosting open mics, and she kept telling me to come. I finally show up, and I come, and I've got my paper. I don't have anything memorized. And the paper was shaking, and my knees were shaking. I was so glad I had a skirt on where people could not see my knees shaking. So I made it through this poem, and people just started applauding, you know. And that's when you're bitten, when you, you get the bug, when people start, you're like, oh, I kind of like this. So the first time I ever performed, I was scared to death. I was not sure what the reception would be to what I was saying and how I was saying it and all of that. And so you just, I was nervous.
I was nervous because with what I was told to recite or to go perform, when I got there, it was changed. It was totally changed. She was like, oh, we wanted it like this, but now we want it this way. Can she do it? And then Mr. Dominic was like, oh, she's good, she can do it. In my head, I was like, oh, I'm finished. Because I don't know what I was going to say. It took me weeks to get it. And now you're changing it. How do you expect me to get it? So when I was performing, I was shivering. When I finished, I cried because I was like, I didn't do anything. This was not what I was expecting, but it did happen. And people were like, oh, you did good. Mr. Dominic was like, nobody knew what you were performing, did they? They didn't. So you can just be okay and then just be you. But I was still in tears because I was like, I didn't do anything. And I was afraid, I was shivering.
I would say mine was in primary. And there was this popular poem that we used to recite, A Girl with My Own Capacity. If I take my secondary pen and paper, there you see the non-stability without capacity. In Ghana, girls are scarce like gold and boys are common like flies.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
You even remember it.
I do remember. I was in primary. I went with one of my friends, Nasiba Swalas. She too, she recited The Wind. And The Wind was one of the poems that my sister used to write. Oh. So I taught her how to recite that poem. So after I recited my non-stability, she also recited The Wind. And it was exciting. We used to enjoy our lives in primary so much with poetry.
Well, I'm very glad that people have heard, at least my viewers have heard you say things like you were nervous, your feet were shaking. You probably had it easier.
Yeah, I think I had some confidence those times.
Yeah.
But I was a shy type. But when I come on stage,
you're different.
I'm glad. It means that you don't necessarily have to have it all figured out when it comes to performing to be able to do poetry. Most of the time when you talk about drama or you talk about anything that has to do with standing in front of people and probably saying a word or two, people are like, okay, that's not my field. I'll probably write it for somebody else to come and talk about it. But I'm glad that you have expressed your experience here, shared your first time experience, and now everybody understands that you don't always have to have it figured out. It has to be like a passion, because most of you had this early on, way back before now, and you're still on that. Maybe that's what keeps you going. But would you say, if somebody wants to get into poetry, what would you say to the person? What would a person have to, what would you need as a poet to be great?
Pen and paper.
Pen and paper.
Just a bit of your soul.
Yes.
Yeah?
Your soul.
Passion.
Yeah. You just have the love for it.
I think once you start writing, and you develop a comfort with it, you become more poetic. And the more you read and develop your vocabulary and your ability to use the tools of poetry, the better you become at it. And so for people who are just starting out, I tell people, first of all, read other poets, go see spoken word artists, go to art exhibits and just drink it all in and start to think like a poet. Use all 5 of your senses, you know, textures, smells, sounds, and try to find the words to describe those things. And that's how you become a poet. You have to start looking at the world around you like a poet does. And so you're looking at the way people operate in the world and what their situations and circumstances are, and you know, trying to insert yourself into other people's stories as well. So once you start doing that, it's easy. They write themselves.
Maybe I should try writing poetry as well. Maybe I have something to say.
Yeah.
Now, you teach poetry, right?
Yes.
You do. What are some of the rudiments? I think you've said a lot, but if there's something else, rudiments of poetry.
I tell young people all the time, you know, use all 5 of your senses, sometimes that 6th one, that gut sense, and write from that. Adjectives and adverbs are your best friends. Learn the use of the metaphor. I tell people to download a thesaurus on your phone. Build your vocabulary all the time. Always be learning. You know, if you hear a word that you don't know, look it up and start to use it. I think it's important for communication reasons, not just poetry reasons, that you always be learning how to best communicate the world around you and tell stories, because everyone's story is important, everyone's voice is important. And once you start telling young people that, they say, wow, I'm important. You know?
And people can feel good about themselves.
Right, right. So everybody has a story to tell.
Yeah, I'm loving the conversation. Even with what you've just said now, I feel like I could probably make an attempt to write something good as well. You know, that we should think about, first of all, you should be passionate.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's okay if you have a bit of stage fright and all that, you'll figure it out. Your first time doesn't have to be perfect. And you have to use your 6 senses, right? Your gut feeling, your eyes, sense of touch, what you hear, how to express everything into detail so people can relate to you, even on all the different senses that we have, and how to communicate.
You're painting pictures with words.
Yeah, so we should build our vocabulary and learn to communicate and tell stories, because everybody's story is important. Well, that is great. I have a surprise for you, my viewers. I'm going to call Afi to give us a performance, right?
Yes.
Yes. Afi is going to give us some jaw-dropping performance before we go on break. So Afi, take to the stage and thrill us.
A toast to the ghosts. A toast to the self-acclaimed goats. A toast to the lies we told. A toast to the conscious and woke, and a toast to the dumb minds and cold. A toast to our choices and shouting our inner voices. A toast to all poets, and a toast to all those at loggerheads. A toast to I can, I can't, I must, I will, I won't, and a toast to I did it. A toast to our scarred faces and the shoes we walk without laces. A toast to our fears that wear us like shirts and our strength that prepares us for the worst. A toast to God and Lucifer, the bearer of light, and the other one who says he will make us suffer in the future for sins already forgiven. If you are out of wine, then light a candle. Thank you.
Well, that was wonderful. So I'm leaving that with you to ponder over. We'll be right back. Welcome back to The Real Show, and if you just joined us, we're having an evening of fun. We are getting educated, we are doing everything poetry, and I have my 3 beautiful guests here on the show. And Afi just left us with a jaw-dropping performance. I hope you're inspired to stick along with us through the conversation and hear other performances that I have in store for you. Now, Afi, thank you so much for the performance. And Samia, you have been writing for children. Tell us how you realized this.
Yeah. For writing, I have a long story to tell you. From how I started, you know, I wasn't the type who was very good at writing.
Okay.
I was the math type. So when I was in school, they used to call me mathematician. But when it comes to writing, I wasn't that good. You know, when I write an essay, the red pen was just too much inside. So one day in SS, we wrote an essay about a dream we had. And then I got 25/30, which was like the first time, like history. So I was shocked. Then the teacher told me that he read my story like 3 times. And when I check it, mechanical accuracy was 5 out of the 30. And I got 0/5 mechanical accuracy.
Okay.
But the content, he gave me 25.
Wow.
So he called me to his office and told me that I'm very creative and talented. This was just a turning point in my life, because it's something that I never knew about myself. I thought that was my greatest weakness, is writing. But the teacher saw something in me. He said the way I wrote the story was so interesting. So I told myself that I'm going to be a writer. So immediately after SS, I went for an interim program on my initiative, and I joined the book writing category. And then I emerged the best among those
Oh wow,
writing.
congrats.
Congrats.
But what happened was I just put it aside until I completed university. I got married, and when I started having children, I decided to use that time to write for kids. And since then, I started writing for children. I published my first book 2 years ago, Rabbita Kingdom.
Wow.
And my second book is on the way, Jojo the Toothless Boy. Yeah, it's
sounds
about
interesting.
bullying. It's a very interesting story. The book is ready, I'm just now going to publish it.
Yeah.
So you should stay tuned.
Oh wow.
We'll be expecting.
That is interesting. So your kids, are they old enough to start reading it? Have they had a taste of your first
My
book?
firstborn is 5 years.
Okay.
She was 5 years just this Monday.
All right then. Then we're still going to have a little
She's very eager. She likes reading.
reading.
Sometimes she makes me sleep at 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock. Because she said one day, she told me she's eager to read Rabbita Kingdom on her own without me reading it to her.
So you have to stay up and be reading that to her. That is
Yeah.
beautiful. Well, we shall see her creative side as she grows.
I think so.
Well, tell us about your works as well.
Well, my works are, I think I'm one kind of spoken word artist who is a loner. Like, I love to be in my one corner, just to be myself until maybe Mr. Dominic calls and then like, oh, Afi,
You keep
there's
saying Mr.
something.
Dominic, Mr. Dominic.
Yes, he's my daddy. Like, aside my father, he's my father. Because he found
Is
me.
he like your mentor for poetry?
No, he's like, as it was said, he's the original coordinator.
Oh, yeah,
for-
original coordinator.
So he found me. So I'm always grateful to him. Like,
Don't worry, Afa, you can mention him again.
Yeah, so yeah, Mr. Dominic. And then he'll be like, oh, Afi, there's going to be a program. So I get to go to events like the Ghana Property Awards. I perform for Unilever Ghana and a whole lot of that. Then aside that, on Facebook, and I'm a figure, that's where I post most of my works. I'm not really a social media kind of person. Instagram, I barely have posts, but on Facebook, yes, I have lots of them. And yes, I think that's that.
All right, so people can have access to your works, right?
Yes.
We will go through that so everybody can give us platforms and people can sample some of your works. Can you tell us about your works as well?
Oh goodness. I guess my work is about the human experience, political experiences. I'm from the United States, and the plight of black people in the United States is not good. And so a lot of my poetry speaks to that. It speaks to feminist movements, you know, the plight of women in that country and around the world. relationships, just any and everything.
Can we read some of your poetry? How do we have access?
I have, right now, I have an artist page on Facebook, which is where I put a lot of stuff. Not whole poems, because people won't publish your poems if you put them in print on social media. So I'll do excerpts or I'll perform them. They don't care if you perform them. So all of that is on my Facebook artist page. That's primarily where everything is. I've got some stuff on YouTube, and just if you Google me, you can.
So if we want to go
stuff.
to your Facebook page, what do we search? YouTube, what
Michelle
do we search?
Troxclair, spoken word artist. It should
Michelle
Troxclair. It's
Troxclair.
yes, Troxclair. It's a lot of names.
So same on YouTube and on Facebook as well.
Yes.
All right, Afi.
Yes.
Okay.
You mentioned your Facebook, but I didn't hear.
Yes, it's Enam Afigale.
Enam Afikali.
Yes.
Enam Afikali on
Yes.
Facebook, and then
On
we can see
Facebook.
some of your performances
Yes.
and all of that. Right. Okay. How do we get your published book?
My book, you have it at EPP Bookshop, Kingdom Bookshop, Vidya Bookshop, Ghana Association of Writers, and then online, there's one, Book Knock online.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And also my Facebook, Samiha Suleiman. Instagram, Samiha
Samiha Suleiman. Okay.
Yes.
All right, Michelle, you do something else with necklaces as well.
Yes.
I want to know about that.
The pandemic forces creative people to be creative in other ways, and so because I couldn't perform and I couldn't get out and do the things that I was doing, I tried my hand at making jewelry, so now I make jewelry. So
You supply jewelry to me, because I also sell jewelry.
oh, okay. I brought a piece in my bag for.
Oh, maybe we'll have a chance to have a look at that later in the show.
Yes.
Oh, that is great. So did you make what you're wearing as well?
No, I did not. I wasn't prepared.
That's okay. Is there anything that the poet does to have fun? Because poetry itself is art. So she does something else, not necessarily for fun, but because of the pandemic, she found herself doing something extremely creative as well. That's making of jewelry. Are you doing something else on the side? Something creative? Anything at all you can share?
I'm a teacher. I handle kids. And playing with my kids is just amazing. It's one thing I love to do. Aside that, I don't do anything to get income aside my teaching job, but anything fun, I dance, I go to the beach, I have fun. That's me. I just have fun.
Hey, what about you?
I enjoy writing,
Okay.
and then spending a lot of time with my family, my kids. They are a handful. They are 3.
Oh,
5
mine are
years,
grown though.
4 years, and then 11 months.
Yeah,
Wow.
see.
Yeah.
So that's gonna be
You're
a lot on
busy.
you. I guess your free time is more like mommy, mommy, mommy,
Yeah.
mommy the whole time.
Busy,
So she's
busy.
never free.
But would you say, you know, also we are always, when it comes to career, looking at your career, you always look at the stages of life, maybe like marriage, having kids, and then we have that fear that those things can actually impede our progress or slow us down a bit, because we need to, you know, all those things are important as well. You need to take time and energy and effort out to handle that as well. So would you say that as a poet or somebody who writes, because you write a lot of other stuff as well, as a writer and even as a poet, would you say that having a family has inspired you, helped propel you do better, or there are tricks to that it can actually delay, and so there's a way you have to handle your time and effort to be able to not lose it?
You know, we all have dreams and ambitions.
Yes.
But situations also, you know, make you create certain things. I think motherhood had made me better, because maybe if I wasn't a mother, I wouldn't have targeted writing for kids.
Yeah.
You know, so it has rather brought the creativity in me. And I think I have a supportive husband too. As of now, he's at the showroom with the kids whilst I'm here. Yes, so for me, motherhood has rather made me better. So in as much as it's time consuming, we always try to squeeze our time to do something out of our talent or
Or just your thoughts,
and it's
experiences.
true, when I got married, I had degree, I did my master's when I was married. So it's not like you are rushing, but step by step, everything matters.
Yeah, and even your children can give you inspiration to write other stuff. That's why you wrote the children's book as well.
I'm even writing another book, Who Pays My Mom.
Okay.
I've done the illustrations already. I've written the book already. So it's left to the designer to do it. It's about unpaid labor, you know. So it's also coming.
Wow. So if you are listening, you are a writer, you're a creative writer, you are a poet, well, listen to us on The Real Show and know that Samiha is still doing amazing and still writing even after marriage and having her kids. So everything that happens around you is a source of inspiration, like we early on established. Life experiences, other people's stories, what you read, what's happening in your life, whether you're getting married, furthering your education, all that can be a way to better yourself. So nothing should hinder or stop you. Now, before we continue the conversation, Samiha, you are now going to give us a performance. Let me give you an intro. Oh, I'm sorry about that. You probably have to carry that along.
I think I want to perform in Arabic.
All right.
So I will be performing in Arabic, and when I'm done, then I'll read the English as a translation. من اليمين. Can I put this somewhere? I should hold it. Okay, I should hold it.
All right then, so we'll have someone from the team help Samiha fix her mic properly, and like you heard, she's going to be giving us a performance in Arabic, after which she will read the English version so that we are not lost. So do enjoy this amazing performance. I know that you're excited because, yes, tonight I'm giving you a lot of performances, right? So stay tuned, she's going to deliver for us.
من اليمين إلى الشمال كتبت حروفك على راحة يدي من اليمين إلى الشمال بعدما رأيت لسان معلقا في برزخ ما بين مسجد غابر واحتلال كتبت حروفك على راحة يدي من اليمين إلى الشمال عندما رأيت لساني معلقا في برزخ ما بين مسجد غابر واحتلال كتبت حروفك على راحة يدي فعودي إلي فعودي إلي أنغام أود إلى أذني أذان فلسان أرض المحتلة وأنت الشاب منفي فعودي الآن تعلمت إعرابه في مدرسة جامعة غانا ترجمت النصوص إلى إنجليزية لأفهمها على مقائد الخشبية ساعتان في أسبوع التكفية أضعتك ورقة التسجيل وورقة الامتحان بعيدا عن البديع والبيان وكم يعجز قلمي عن الكتابة وكم يتلعثم لساني تتعثر في فمي أبيات الشعر وآيات القرآن وما زلنا نردد أنا البحر في أحشاء ذو الركام يا بحرا غرق واسوقي وسلك درك طوفان يا بحرا أحمده التاريخ فعودي إلي طوفان لأركب حروفك سفنا وأبحر لأركب حروفتي سفنا وأبحر فيشبه شعرا ذاكرة فعودي إلي أنغام أود إلى أذني أذان فلسان أرض المحتلة وأنت الشاب منفي فعود الآن لتكتب سطورنا من اليمين إلى الشمال إلى اليمين إلى الشمال.
Great. Maybe we'll get it better with the English.
The language was beautiful, though.
Yeah, it was.
This is about the Arabic language. From right to right, from right to left, I wrote your letters on my palm. From right to left, when I saw my thumb hanging between old glory and occupation, I wrote your letters on my palm. After I left you for the Orientalists, after I left you abandoned on bookshelf, after I saw you being translated from left to right in English, I abandoned you between the walls, so please return to me. Return to me like melodies and like call to prayer, because my tongue is an occupied land and you are its exiled people. So please return to me now. I learned grammar at the University of Ghana. I translated scripts to English in order to understand you. On the wooden desk, 2 hours a week was enough. I lost you amidst learning grammar and rote memorization. Away from learning poetry and prose. I lost you amidst learning drama. Oh, how my paralyzed pen, and how many times my tongue started and stumbled in my mouth. Lines of poetry and verses from the Quran stumbled in my mouth, and yet I still repeat, I am the sea. Within me pearls are hidden. In schools which imported its curriculum from abroad, oh my sea, the Arabic language, your divers have drowned and the pirates stole your pearls. In my sea, history has silenced you, and please return to me. Return to me like a flood. Return to me like a flood that writes your letters like ships and sail. So I can write your letters like ships and sail. So poetry can become memories. So poetry can become recollections. So I can write your letters like ships and sail. So poetry can become the home of all homes. So please return to me like old melodies and like the call to prayers. Because my tongue is an occupied land and you are the exiled people. So please return to me, so that our lines could be written from right to left. From right to left, and not from left to right. Thank you.
Wow, Samiha. So at least if nothing at all, if you're watching The Real Show tonight, live on Metro TV Ghana, you know that Arabic is supposed to be from right to left and not from right to left when we translate it in English. And that was beautiful. Yes, thank you so much. I hope I get to understand Arabic someday, because I would like the whole accent and how the words are pronounced. I think that is beautiful. Thank you. So that leaves us with one last performance for tonight from Michelle, but that's not going to happen now. So stay through the conversation and she'll give us her performance definitely before the end of the show. Now, on the 18th of November next month, Ghana will be having a week-long celebration for poets. And it will feature headline acts with comedians, musicians, and all that. So if you're watching us here on The Real Show live on Metro TV Ghana, you heard it here first if you did not know that next month, 18 November, please head to the Ghana Museum, and if you're an artist or a poet, you can feature or have your works displayed, or you have a chance to perform. Yes, so yeah, you heard it first on The Real Show. You're going to go on with the conversation. And Michelle, you were in the States and now you're here in Ghana.
Yes.
Now let's look at poetry in the States and poetry in Ghana. Pros and cons. How is it like comparing it?
I have not been here long enough or had enough, I haven't been fed enough of Ghanaian poetry to make that comparison as yet. What I will say is that spoken word in the African/African American oral tradition has its roots here. And so the similarities are huge. When I heard
Very
her do her
similar.
piece, I was like, that it reminds me of one of my young people, you know. And so I think that where it started, the origins of it, it's here. And it's important that the United States, African Americans, recognize that and connect, because the ancestors are just as important now as they were.
Well, let's look at poetry generally.
Yes.
Anytime we talk on the Real Show, we try to reveal what it is that keeps people going, because the idea is that if somebody's watching who probably wants to get into poetry and has no idea where to start from, or is probably even afraid as to how the journey would be, they are listening to your stories. A thing or two may inspire them. They may learn something new, or even know who to contact. For instance, you teach, they may be able to contact you, Michelle, or even your you is available to even mentor them and learn from you. But then again, we are in a system where everybody wants to survive. Everybody, you first need a peace of mind financially before you can think of what to do. So that bit brings the question to mind: is poetry lucrative? Is it something you can take on as your career, as what you do, the main and only thing that you do? Tell us, if somebody is watching, the person says, look, I feel, look, Michelle, Samiha, I've been listening to you guys, I'm amazed, I really want to put my talent to use. Is this a good thing to do head on? I can drop everything and then just jump on it.
I think you have to build. You have to work on your craft. You have to build your networks and the people around you to support you in your endeavors. I didn't jump right out and start paying a mortgage with poetry. You have to build up to that. So what I would encourage people to do, whether it's poetry, and do what you love, the money will come, everything will come. If you are a wordsmith, if you are a lover of words, then pursue that. Language is very powerful, and I tell people all the time, there is so much power in language and learning how to wield it. And poets wield it the best.
Great.
So
For me, when at a point I gave up. At a point I did give up. I threw my book under the bed and I was like, I'm done. I'm not going to do this anymore. But Mr. Dominic again kept calling me. So there was one time I was like, Afi, yes, he calls me Betha. Betha, what's up? Oh, Daddy, I'm okay, I'm there. And he was like, oh, there's a gig. I was like, okay, for who? Then he was like, for the First Lady of Ghana. I was like,
Whoa. Wow.
should I scream? Or should I just roll on the floor? And I was like, oh, I'm serious. He normally jokes. He was like, I'm very serious. This is about the First Lady. She was coming to commission the PICU, Pediatric Intensive Care Unit for the kids. I was like, no, okay. So I gave up, but he didn't give up on me. So why should I give up on myself? And that was when it kept going. I kept pushing. And like Mommy said, she didn't actually pay her mortgage with this poetry, but she started doing things aside. So yes, you do what you love, and then you do other things as well to just keep
Great.
it going.
I love the reality of your story. Samiha.
Yeah, for me, reality of poetry, it doesn't pay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Once in a while, you get people to call you, and then after the show, they'll give you something. But I used to use my pocket money to go to events, to recite poetry, and use my pocket money to come back with nothing, because I was doing it for passion. But as time goes on, I thought maybe there are other things that I can do. I love business. I do business too. I write too. I sell my books. So depending on poetry alone in Ghana here, I don't know. Maybe there are other
That'd be
people
very
who are
hard.
doing it.
well, I did pay a mortgage for about 12 years with poetry.
Yeah.
Tell us how
So-
you can make the most out of your poetry to make a
Yes.
living out of it.
Yeah, I want to hear that.
Well, I used it in the best way possible, meaning I coordinated shows and incorporated poetry, and I married genres together. So I would do poetry shows with rappers, poetry shows with cellists and visual artists, and anything that would bring people in. I also was teaching poetry, so I started teaching in the youth prison and in the schools that with the kids nobody wanted.
In America, in US.
Right, and so I just ate, breathed, slept poetry and tried to get it out in any way possible. So working with young people, working with other artists, performing. And once you have gotten to a certain level with your craft, you can demand a certain amount of money. You don't ever want to devalue your art.
Yeah.
Everything that brings joy to your life besides friends and family was created by an artist, and why would you not pay for that? And so making sure that people pay the artist, pay you the poet, just like they would the lighting guy, the sound guy, you know, what you bring is just as important. And so I would not do, I would not get on a microphone unless you were putting $150 in my pocket, and that was for 15 minutes. Anything beyond that, my price goes up. So it was demanding that people pay you for the hard work that you put into your art.
Yeah.
Because
So
it's
I think so far from what I've picked from Michelle's statements here is that you need to partner with people on a lot of events, because that's when the payments can come higher. You can have your own segments on YouTube where you pick special topics of interest that are probably at its peak, or things that are trending in simpler terms, and then you do your own creative thing about it for YouTube, which views can actually accumulate at a point and pay you. If you have yearly events together as poets, you can have your own yearly events, like what's going to happen on the 18th for Ghana Museum and all of that. I don't know if there's a team or a group, you know, like we have Musica for music in Ghana. I don't know, there's something of the sort for poetry or poets. So you can come together and make that happen, and that builds a very strong force for the crafts and makes it more appreciated and makes people feel like, yes, they should pay more, like she's saying. And then you know your value and you demand for what you're supposed to be paid. And I'm actually excited, and I'm happy for the performances from Afi and Samiha. Now was never Michelle.
Oh, okay.
Are you ready, Michelle?
As ready as I'm going to get. So.
All right, then we'll take your performance soon. But before that, Michelle's performance will be like the, should I say, closing act for us. So thank you so much for sticking through the conversation. My name is Mahalia, your host, TV host extraordinaire, as I always say. We have been live on Metro TV Ghana or DSTV channel 277 if you're watching us live from your DSTV decoder. And this and every Friday night, 8:30 is a date with me on the most watched show. My makeup is from MB Studio Fix. You can Google MB Studio Fix on Google Map or Uber to take you straight to their office, and you can have your face beats and look yummy like myself, and have your hair from the Hair Highness on Instagram. Thank you so much for sticking with us, and Michelle will take us away.
Okay, I'm clipped. Good.
Yeah. Yes, you're ready when you are.
I've got 3 demons chasing me, trying to get the best of me, testing me, inside my gut festering, parasites pestering me. And they grew, and I knew that a few would grow and spew awful offspring anew, because that's what they do. Nature to be human. The ids, kin, and cousins, 3 demons within, do battle with sentience, thumbs, and imagination. And they provide no aid nor solace. Fear finds its place, laying waste to dreams and aspirations, and they flee with all due haste, or lash out in the name of self-preservation. The demon of love fits snugly in fear's glove, and all the above applicable, interchangeable stone butterflies in the gut. Control, possess, more love, fear less. I must have him to myself, for I fear loneliness and that dreaded knot within my chest. Depression sits down at the table now. Fear and love cock their brow, for sadness honors no vows, and to neither fear nor love bows. These 3 demons have been my trusted whores. They've entered me through open sores, and their vile children I bore. anger, maliciousness, passiveness, apathy, I most abhor. I must lay these whores to rest. I must lay these whores to rest.